So it's been a while since I've posted a video on the Grand National. Let me show you where I'm at with it. We have door panels in. Well, just door panel. Still waiting on a couple of odds and ends to fit up that one. Center console is in. Gauges are in. You already saw seats and carpet from the last video. And I've been making some progress on the engine. So I did another compression test just to make sure that everything is up to snuff, and it is. I'm getting 150 across all cylinders. This fuel pressure regulator here, it's brand new, but it's not the adjustable type, and I need to get it up to 45 PSI. I need to get fuel pressure up to 45 PSI so I can use the chip that I want to use. But the most that this will give me is right around 38. So I'm going to get a new one ordered. But in the meantime, I am having problems with the intake. So right down here is the EGR valve inlet. And they don't make these block-off plates for the hot air cars, so I'm gonna have to make one. So what I need to do, I need to take off this intake, take off the turbo, all of that, replace the gaskets, make a plate for this, and then put everything back together. Another reason why I have to take all of this off, there's a knock sensor that's right behind here that I really need to get access to.
Knock, knock.
And I can't do that with all of this in the way. The knock sensor has broken clean off. My goal is to get down there, drill it, extract it, do whatever I need to do so I can fit a new one with the new wire and repair kit that I have. So intake, turbo, all of that needs to come off. Here goes. All right, so here is a close-up view of what I was able to take off. So intake off, and we can see that we have this belly pan here. A little bit about the condition of this. It looks pretty bad. Everything is kind of what you would expect for a car that's been sitting a long time and has rust everywhere. We have, that looks to be like hardened silicone. So definitely want to clean everything up, take off the gaskets, and make sure all the mating surfaces look clean and nice. Taking a look at the cooling passages, it's dirty, but nothing sludge-like. Yeah, everything you're seeing going on here is like rough casting and just a little dirt. So that should all clean up with the flush that I plan to put through it and all of that. Let me show you what the intake looks like. All right, so we have the intake here, and taking a look down the intake, this is where the turbo feeds. A lot of oil in there, so my turbo is leaking oil. I'm seeing the same thing on this side, and I saw a little bit of it on the throttle body when I removed that, so going to need to rebuild or replace this turbo as well. The next one will be turbo number 3, so hopefully that will be my lucky shot there. The PCV is new, so I don't expect blow-by and oil from the PCV to work its way back up into the throttle body. Not with the limited amount of miles that I've had on it, so I'm pretty certain it's the turbo. If you remember, I got that for 150 bucks used and untested, so I took a gamble, didn't pay off. But with the price of replacement turbos being $800 to $1,000, hopefully it's sitting on the shelf and not affected due to supply chain. Should be able to have that in relatively short order. The rest of this just looks dirty. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the EGR valve, so it exhausts gas recirculation. It basically takes unburned gases and puts it back into the intake for a second chance at burn. And we want to eliminate that. So what I'll need to do is remove this outlet and this pipe, and then block this port right here, and then come over here and block this port as well. So if I can do all of that, I'll be in good shape. So here's the underside of it. There's some sludge there. That's tough to break down, but that is oil. And you had an opportunity to clean all this up and make it better, so I will definitely take that. Now, another reason why we needed access to this, besides the EGR, was the knock sensor. So let me show you that. So this is what it looks like right now. Let me clean it up. All right, so in the center of the screen, right about here, is what's remaining of the knock sensor, I believe. Comment if I'm wrong, but here is the brand new knock sensor. So it looks a little bit different than what's left here. I'll take you in real close so you can see that. So the plan is, hopefully I can throw some vice grips on it after I spray it with penetrating fluid. Hopefully that could get things to a point where it can easily come off. I really don't want to have to drill this out. So if this will come out easy, I'd be forever grateful. The great part is it should have anti-seize on it, but I don't know, this is 30 something years ago, so not sure. All right, so let me take a quick break and it'll be a second for you, but it'll probably be the work day for me before I can come back and tackle this. Here it goes. And, you know, I'm gonna go this route with it. Thank goodness. Oh man, came out, y'all. There it is. And now I can install a new knock sensor. So, one problem solved, but one more problem. I don't see the wire. So when I took out the remainder of the knock sensor, there was the wire and the plug attached, but I don't see where the wire got disconnected. So if anybody knows where the wire goes or comes from in this harness, give me a shout out in the comments, because I don't know where to wire it into, and I don't want to run a brand new wire all the way to the computer, so help me out. Okay, so I took you through a little bit earlier on my knock sensor and how I had to get that out of there, but the wire broke off, and I've been trying to figure out where it is, and I think I found it. This wire that I just moved with my hand, this one right here, I need to be able to connect that to the repair loom that I have for this sensor. So let me pull up on it. May have to try to disconnect the harness from the side of the block just so I can get a little bit more on there. But that errant wire right there goes to my knock sensor, and that entire piece just came right off. So a little bit more work to do before the intake goes on, but I'm in the home stretch. All right, so that was easier than I expected. And what happens is the wires come from this way on down. So what I was able to do, I split this loom just a little bit, took a look at the wires, and this is that wire. I verified this by Scott Keller. Thank you, Scott, for sending me over the wiring diagram. So I know dark blue goes to the knock sensor, and I ohmed out between here and the spark module and got continuity, very low ohms. So that lets me know this is the right wire that I need to connect to. So I'll have a little bit more split loom coming off here so I can protect the wire and bring it right down to the new knock sensor. So let me wire this in and we'll get going. All right, with the magic of YouTube, harness done. So I'm good there. Probably should have tested this before, but yep, looks like it'll fit there. So I'm going to clean back there just a smidge, make it a little bit more ready for this new sensor. All right, good enough. Let's see here. All right. You really don't want to over tighten those. So, feels good. Let me get this catch-all out of the way. Everything looks pretty good. Everything looks pretty good. So, all right. Knock sensor installed, plugged in, ready to go. Put that back over there. Route that behind here. Ready. All right, so I'm looking around and things look pretty decent. There's a little bit of oil buildup, consistent with oil changes that have probably taken a little bit too long. The chunks that I was able to take off are here. So as you can see, there's some, pretty consistent buildup there. All right, so we want to get this pipe off. I'm going to have to find a wrench that's big enough to take that nut off. So let's see what we got. 1 1/8. Oh snap, pretty decent. I think I'm there. 1 1/16 is snug, but I'll try 1 1/8. Should be able to get that off pretty easily. And here goes. Wow.
Dude, super weak.
There we go. Okay, taking a close look here. Let me bring you guys in. Taking a look at this PCV grommet. See a tear on there. It looks like it's still able to retain a seal, but I'm already at it. I'm never gonna get another good opportunity to take care of that. So let's take care of it. Okay, out. Sounds good. So that looks like from underneath. Yeah, it looks good. That break is really superficial. Before I take it out, I'm going to see how easy it is to order another one. Taking a look at this EGR plate that we need to create. You basically already have the outline of what you need. You're just going to need to make a gasket or use some gasket sealer to fill in that area. And then you're gonna put a plate over it, bolt that down, good to go. I know it's kind of hard to see, so that's what I'm talking about, this right here. And once that's covered up and blocked, and then this is blocked as well. Yeah, once that's blocked and that's blocked, we'll be in really good shape. That'll stop the intake air leaks that I was sensing. Generally, I also want to get all of this cleaned up. I wish I had a blaster because this is gonna be very hard to sand completely. And also on the back here, we have vacuum. So one vacuum should go off to the cruise control, I believe, and the other one should go off to the AC unit. So I'm gonna replace all of this with fresh rubber, fresh clamps, so once it's in position, it'll be easy to hook things up and go. I think in the morning what I'm gonna do is I'll power wash all of this, try to get some of that old chipping paint off of there, get all that oil and grease off of there, and then we can get everything buttoned up. But what I can do tonight is I will cut a template out of this gasket and then use it to make a metal block off plate that I can put right on there. So make that, pop it on there. Once all of this is cleaned up, I can spray it, get it looking good, and it'll go back together. Haven't had any luck on the replacement turbo yet. We'll see what happens. I may just send it for now, but I'm gonna be on the lookout for a TA33C, I believe. That's the one that'll work with the hot airs, because you need to be able to bolt up the throttle body to these cars. So that is the plan so far. Plan is to have this back up and running tomorrow. I do have the gaskets and all of that other good stuff here, so not really concerned about that. Just got to get this cleaned up, looking good, and that block off plate done. But here goes. All right, so the final piece of work that I can do tonight is swapping over the injectors. And these are the 42-pound ones. They've got about 50 miles on them. So, and that's not even from this build. That was from the previous one. I've probably ran the car for maybe an hour using these. So these are pretty brand new. The only reason I'm switching them out is because I'm using the extender chip. So these are 42-pounders that go with the turbo tweak chip. I have 60-pounders that'll go with the extender chip. And of course, the bigger the pound, the more fuel you can push through them. So it's probably best that I just sell these as a set, and I'll toss them up on Marketplace. I'm sure I'll get some bites. People are always looking to upgrade, and these flow much better than the stockers. So I just got to take them off really carefully. There are clips right here that you pop off, and from there you can take the injector right off. I'll do the first one, and then we'll switch over to time lapse. Boom. One down, 5 to go. So if I ever need a vise for larger items, just to like loosely place it somewhere, I'll use the bottom drawer. So what we have right here, I'll bring you guys in a little bit closer so you can see it. So this hole right here, there we go. This is for the other side of the EGR valve. So it takes the gases and goes right back in there from the intake. And I want to be able to get rid of that. I need to seal it. So what I've got here is a 1-inch freeze plug, and I'm just going to make sure it's level, and I'm going to tap it in place. All right. So that's what it looks like now. Nice, clean. It almost looks factory. And that's what the top of my block off plate looks like. I'll clean it up and paint it the same color to match, maybe at a later time. I need it to be dry so I can put it in place, nice and even, nice and easy. So here is what the old gaskets look like. Let me move my sandpaper out of the way. So it's a far cry from what it looks like now, thankfully. And this intake is a far ways away from what that looked like as well. Sanded, wire wheeled, grinded, painted it up. Now it matches the valve covers and everything else, so let's get it on there. All right, so I was in the home stretch of putting things back together, and then right before I put the fuel rail on, I noticed something. If you look right in the middle here, you'll see that there's copper. There's exposed wire on my fuel injector connectors. So this one is for, what does that look like? Cylinder 3. And the average person would just wrap that in electrical tape and keep it on. But I need to make sure that exposed wires aren't connecting to each other. So that would affect the fuel pattern that we're getting out of this injector. A little extra maybe, but I need to make sure it's right, and I don't want to continue to take this off and back on again. So what I'll do is I'll take a fresh blade, slice among here, and separate that coating and see what this looks like. Here goes. Got out of fresh blades. Where my blades at? Where my blades at? From the front to back, and what you feeling at? What I'm gonna do is, I know that there's like a split right here. This is where the sheathing ends and the two wires come out. So I know that in this position, when it's flat, I have one wire on each side. So that's what I want to try to get up here to be. And once I massage it enough, mind you, this is 35-year-old wire that's been heat cycled forever. Once we get it flat, and I know that wire 1 is on the left, wire 2 is on the right, I can start cutting beyond that point on both sides. And I'm doing it with minimal pressure. It doesn't matter if I have to do it more than once. That's totally fine. But I don't want to go too far. And right here you can start to see the sheathing coming off. So we're going in the right direction. So here's what that wire looks like. One of the wires is frayed. I think it's either heat related or it's animal related. It's kind of hard to tell. All of the conductive material, or the actual wire, none of it is ending. So none of it is actually cut. It's really just exposed at this point. So I'm glad I checked, because this would have been something that would have plagued me if I got the car back together and it was stumbling. But I can say pretty confidently that this would not affect the way that the car runs. What I can do is I can hook up an ohm meter to either end, from right here to that corresponding wire here, and I can do my test. And what I'll be looking for is near 0 ohms. You know, with this disconnected from the actual injector, one side of the wire here, the other side of the wire there. And if we're seeing resistance, then that means, hey, you need to replace that wire, or, you know, repair it. So I'll do that off camera, and we'll go on from there. If it looks good, I'll properly prepare it, make sure it's ready. If not, we'll be diving in, maybe looking for a new wire. Here goes. All right, so it passed the test. And what I ended up doing was just, covering everything back up. Looks nice and neat, and it's ready to go back on. That's why you have to be really, really careful as you're going through each step and reconditioning items on these builds. These cars are over 30-something years old. A lot of things have happened to them in their time. And troubleshooting these things, it will drive a sane person mad because, I know I've been over these components a few times and this is the first time I'm spotting it. So that just lets you know that I'm not immune to it either. That's why it's so tempting for some folks just to rip out all of the old, start fresh, start with the latest technology. But it's something to admire how these cars ran back then. It's part of the allure. When folks are telling stories about this car, it's not about future technology, it's about how it made them feel at the time back then. Now I do realize there are cars that are a lot faster. There's cars that probably outperform it now, right? But taking a step back into time is about appreciating what happened at that time. So why not try to do that with this? So for all the folks who are contemplating on getting one of these or have one of these, who are thinking about doing the work on their own, do it. Just appreciate it and take your time. I get a little bit more enjoyment out of putting these things back together than even driving them once they're done. Take a look at my fleet of vehicles, right? The most memorable times was tearing it apart and putting it back together. Enjoying them has a special place in my heart, yeah, but there's nothing like the build process. So anyway, injectors going back on. All right, so to recap, we took apart the intake of the Grand National so we could seal up that EGR leak and install those new 60-pound injectors. So now I have to take a look at that math translator, remove the settings that had me try to calibrate what we did have, the 42-pound injectors, and make it work like it was just delivered. So we'll configure it for 60-pound injectors, and all other settings will be just like they came in an effort to get this thing to run smoothly. So I think that's everything. Let's see how it starts. All right, so it runs, it drives a lot better than before. I'm getting really good air-fuel ratios. My coolant temp is right around 180. I'm sure it's gonna drop once the thermostat fully opens. BLMs, O2 sensor, everything is looking and reading really nicely. So I consider this a win. Let's see what I can get into on the road here.